If you're trying to become a developer today, let me ask you one thing. Have you ever felt like you're doing everything you're supposed to do, watching videos, following tutorials, trying to learn, and somehow you feel more confused than when you started? Because I actually think becoming a developer has never been easier. And somehow, learning programming has never felt more overwhelming. You open YouTube, and one person tells you to learn AI. Another person says web development is dead. Another says you're wasting your time unless you're solving leet code. And before you know it, you're not learning anymore. You're just second guessing every decision you make. And honestly, I actually think programming is the easy part these days. Choosing what deserves your attention is the hard part. So if I had to start over tomorrow, with everything I've learned over the last 14 years, these are the only 4 things I would focus on. Everything else can wait. Make your world smaller. Seriously, the very first thing I would do is make my world much smaller. I think one of the biggest reasons people stay stuck isn't because they aren't working hard enough. It's because every day someone gives them another direction to follow. Another language, another framework, another AI tool, another roadmap, another opinion. You know what I've noticed? Every time I thought, okay, I finally know what I need to learn, I opened YouTube and somebody convinced me I should be learning something else. And if you've ever felt that, you're definitely not the only one. I honestly think that's one of the biggest reasons people get stuck. Not because they aren't learning, but because they keep changing direction all the time. Imagine you're driving somewhere you've never been before. You put the destination into Google Maps and it tells you it will take 40 minutes. But after just 5 minutes, you start thinking, this doesn't feel right. So you turn around, try a different road, and 5 minutes later, you turn around again, and then again. Eventually, you spend 2 hours driving, and somehow you're still nowhere near your destination. And that's not because Google Maps failed, it's because you never trusted one route long enough to actually get there. I think that's exactly what a lot of beginners accidentally do. Every new path feels safer, but it quietly guarantees you will never arrive. So if I were starting today, I would make one promise to myself. For the next 60 to 90 days, I wouldn't change programming languages. I wouldn't buy another course. I wouldn't watch another roadmap video. I would pick one path and I would stick with it long enough to find out whether it actually worked. One thing I've learned over the years is not to trust fear too much. Just because you're worried you're learning the wrong thing doesn't automatically mean you are. So here's what you should do after this video. Open a blank note and write down the language you've chosen, the course you're following, the project you're building. Then make yourself one promise. For the next 90 days, the rest can wait. Not forever, just for now, because your progress will not come from choosing perfectly. It will come from committing long enough to grow. And once you stop chasing the perfect roadmap, you will probably realize the next thing holding you back was never the roadmap. It was confidence. So comment below I commit as a promise that you will do that. Stop waiting to feel ready. I used to think that confidence comes first, that one day I would finally feel ready to decide what to learn, ready to start learning, ready to attend interviews. Looking back, I think I had it backwards in my head. Confidence isn't what makes you start. Starting is what slowly builds confidence. And let me tell you something that happened early in my career. In my first programming job, I worked with a mentor who had years of experience. Seriously, I thought the guy knew everything. Then one day, a bug completely broke our application. I remember I was in panic mode, and then I look at him thinking, alright, now I'm about to witness what years of experience actually looks like. I expected him to immediately start typing this magic code on his keyboard. Instead, you know what he did? He opened Google, read something for maybe 2 minutes, tried something, fixed it, and we moved on. The funny thing is, I walked away from that day thinking he was an even better developer than before, because I realized something. Experience isn't knowing every answer. Experience is when you stay calm when you don't know one. That lesson stayed with me. Then a few years later, I started leading developers myself. And every now and then, someone on my team would come up with a better solution than mine. Younger me would hate that. These days, I genuinely love it. Because software is not a competition. Nobody cares whose idea wins. The only thing that matters is building the best product you can. So here's the rule I would follow if I were starting today. Every time I learn something new, I have 48 hours to use it. 2 days. Learn loops, build something with loops. Learn APIs, make an API request. Learn local storage, save something with it. And don't worry about building something impressive. Build something that forces you to think, to struggle, to make decisions. Knowing something does feel good. Using it changes you. Before you watch another tutorial, ask yourself one question. Have I actually used the last thing I learned? If the answer is no, close YouTube, open your editor, build something, even if it's tiny, ugly, or if it breaks. It doesn't matter, because once you stop waiting to feel ready, there's only one thing left that's probably still making you nervous, and that's AI. Think with AI. Honestly, I don't blame you. Every week, there's another video, another demo, another headline showing AI building apps, writing code, or replacing someone's workflow. So it's completely normal to ask yourself, what's the point of learning programming if AI can already write code better than me? I actually think that's the wrong question to ask. The better question is, how do I become the kind of developer who stays valuable no matter how good AI gets? I will never forget the first time GitHub Copilot completed the line of code I was literally about to type. I pressed tab, leaned back in my chair, and laughed from fear. It genuinely felt like it had looked inside my head. And for a few seconds, I had the exact same thought a lot of beginners have today. Well, what am I needed for? But after using AI for a while, I realized something. It wasn't replacing my thinking, it was following it. It only knew what I wanted to write because I already knew what I was trying to build. AI is incredible at generating code, really. But before a single line of code exists, someone still has to understand the problem. Someone still has to break it into smaller pieces, ask better questions, make decisions, and notice when something doesn't feel right. That's still programming. So here's how I would personally use AI. I would spend 20 to 30 minutes trying to solve the problem myself. Not because I expect to solve it every time, but because I want to understand where I'm getting stuck. Then I would ask AI for a hint. Not the whole solution, a hint. Just enough to move forward. And once I got it working, I would ask one more question. Can you explain why this works? Because understanding why is what actually makes you better. Use AI to shorten your struggle and never to skip it. Because I will tell you one thing. Your struggle isn't getting in the way of learning. It is the learning. Stay long enough. If I followed those first 3 ideas, made my world smaller, stopped waiting until I felt confident, and learned to think with AI, there would be only one thing left. I would decide that I wasn't going to quit just because learning felt difficult. Because after 14 years doing this professionally, I've noticed something. The developers who succeed usually aren't the ones who learned the fastest. They're the ones who stayed long enough for all those small improvements to actually compound. I've worked with developers who were genuinely brilliant, and I've worked with developers who started with very little experience. What surprised me is that the gap between them was almost never as big as beginners imagine, because the less experienced developers kept improving, week after week, month after month, until one day they weren't junior developers anymore. I think beginners ask the wrong question. When will I finally feel like a developer? And looking back, I don't think that's ever been the right question. The question I've always asked myself is, what's the next problem I need to solve? Because that's what developers do. One problem, then another, and eventually you look back and realize that's exactly how a career was built. Programming doesn't get easier. You slowly become the kind of person who doesn't panic when the problems get harder. Think about everyone who started learning programming 5 years ago. Some of them are experienced developers today. Not because they were smarter than you or because they found the perfect roadmap. They simply kept showing up while everyone else kept wondering whether they should. Which means the experienced developers you will become 5 years from now could be sitting exactly where you are today. Watching this video, wondering if you're capable, wondering if you're too late, wondering if AI is going to replace you. I genuinely don't think those are the questions that matter. The question that matters is much simpler. Will you still be here? Now, if you're wondering where to start, I've put together a completely free roadmap. Inside it, you will find my beginner roadmap, more than 20 project ideas to build, and the tools and resources I would personally recommend if I were starting today. You can download it using the first link in the description. It will also sign you up for my free newsletter, where every week I share practical advice to help you become a proper developer. So if I really had to start over tomorrow, I would make my world smaller. I would stop waiting until I felt confident, I would learn to think with AI, and I would definitely stay long enough for the process to work. Because becoming a developer isn't about finding the perfect roadmap. It isn't about choosing the perfect language. It definitely isn't about knowing everything. What is it about? It's about becoming the kind of person who keeps moving forward even when they don't have all the answers. One day, someone is going to ask you, how did you become a developer? I hope your answer will not be, I found the perfect roadmap. I hope your answer will be, I just never stopped. And if you're serious about becoming a developer, watch this video next, because I genuinely think understanding how to learn is even more important than deciding what to learn. Thanks for watching, you legends. I'm Pete, and I'll see you on the next one.